Hello everyone and welcome to the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. My name is Angela Andrew and today we're going to be talking about Quick Review, which is a great tool for helping you flag and rate your images in Mylio Photos. Before we jump into today's topic, I do want to let you know what we have coming up for you next week. We have our Ready, Set, Go program. We're starting a brand new month, so there's going to be a new session of Ready, Set, Go. And you can find that at mylio.com/readysetgo. This is run by Lori Rubin, who's also here today helping out in the chat, making sure I don't miss any of your questions. And she does twice daily live presentations that you can attend to learn all of the fundamentals about Mylio Photos. There's also a self-paced option, so if you can't attend live, you can always participate self-paced as well. So if you're new, I encourage you to check that out. Also, if you haven't used Mylio for a while and you need a refresher, that's a great place to go as well. On Tuesday and Thursday, we have our live Q&A sessions, which you're welcome to jump into at any time. I answer questions for Mylio Photos, family history, photography, kind of anything within that realm is fair game. Next week, also on Monday, we're going to have an important webinar by our very own Rich Harrington. He's our head of product, and he's going to be talking about the brand new Mylio Drive Plus secure cloud storage. So if you haven't yet checked into it and you want to learn more, make sure you join that webinar on the 30th. And then we have our coffee break on next Friday as well, and we're going to be talking about the Mylio clipboard. And throughout October, what we're wanting to do is show you some of the tools in Mylio Photos that you might not have paid attention to for a while, or maybe you missed. They're not necessarily huge, but they can be very, very helpful. And I think they kind of need a little bit more emphasis, and hopefully you guys will enjoy those sessions. So make sure you check out Coffee Break next week. And let's go ahead and jump into today's topic, which is sorting and rating with Quick Review. So this is a tool that if you haven't used before, you might want to check out because it's a great way, whether you're on your computer or on a mobile device, to quickly go through a group of images and add your ratings flags or star ratings, whichever you want to use, or both, to go ahead and give some semblance of organization to your library with regard to which are your favorite images, or maybe which ones you're ready to get rid of, or at least mark as rejects. So what we're going to do today is talk about what is Quick Review. I'm going to go over some of my favorite settings and shortcuts that you can use with this tool. We'll talk about how to use some really cool gestures that are available for this tool on mobile devices. And then once you've gone through and you've rejected photos, what do you do with them? So that's going to be kind of what we're covering today. So let's go ahead and start out with what is Quick Review. Basically, this is a mode in Mylio Photos that removes distractions and allows you to focus on just rating and starring your photos. And it's great for helping you kind of clean up the clutter, go through a series of images. For me, what I do with this is it helps me focus on which ones I want to edit and do more with. So I'm a fine art photographer. I take pictures of a lot of different stuff. And a lot of times I take more than one image of a specific thing. First of all, I have shaky hands, so I'm usually shooting burst mode and I have 2 or 3 shots that are very similar. My goal with looking at those images is to go through and find the ones that are sharpest and have the best composition. That's the one I'm going to want to work with. From there, I'm going to take a look at the images as a whole and go, is this composition good? Is this an interesting photo? Do I want to do something more with it? And those are the pictures I'm going to use the pick flag for. So when I have that group of images with only a couple of them, or maybe 1 or 2 that are actually in focus and really good, that's where the reject flag comes in handy. Anything that's blurry and I know I'm not going to do anything with, we're going to mark it as a reject. Anything else, we're going to mark it as a pick. Now in Quick Review, you also have star ratings, so you can add a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5-star rating. This is great later on in my process. Once I've edited things, that's when I go through and I start adding my star ratings. So my first level of attack is going to be flags because it's kind of a yes-no proposition. Later on, I will add my star ratings to think which ones are the absolute best. And I really only personally mess with 3, 4, and 5 stars. So we'll walk through that and I'll show you exactly how to do this. I've got a set of images that I found in my archives that I actually never did anything with, and you guys are going to help me cull through them. So before we dive into actually using this tool, I want to share a couple of shortcuts and settings that I think make this tool even more useful. So the first thing we're going to do is go under the settings and device appearance in Mylio, and we're going to turn off preview animation. What that is an animation that when you switch between photos, there's just a little animation that happens. I find it to be distracting, so I turn that off. And then sticky zoom. If I have two images that are really, really similar and I want to keep that same zoom level when I go back and forth because I want to see that detail in that important area, having sticky zoom on means that when I go from one to the next, things remain zoomed. So I think it's a great setting. You don't have to turn those on, but I think these might be helpful. So let me show you where those are located. I'm going to jump over here to Mylio, and you're going to go up to the More menu up here in the upper right and go down to Settings. Under Device Appearance, here is Use Preview Animation. You can see that I have it off. It is on by default. So if you haven't changed the setting, you might want to go in and take a look at that. See if you like it better. It's a personal choice. Same goes with sticky zoom. This is typically off by default. I turned it on. So those are two things that I suggest as you're going through and culling your images. If you want to be zooming in and giving things kind of a really tough look to make sure they're really good quality, these are two that I find very, very helpful. Now, there are also some great keyboard shortcuts when using QuickReview, and these work in a lot of other areas as well, but what you're going to want to pay most attention to if working on the keyboard is useful to you is Z is for zoom. So when you're in QuickReview mode, click that Z key and it's going to zoom you in. If you want to choose a pick flag, go ahead and hit P on the keyboard. X is a reject. If you change your mind, you can hit U and that's going to remove all the flags. If you prefer to use star ratings, you can use the keyboard to do 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. If you want to remove a star rating, go ahead and hit the 0. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like in real life in Mylio. So I'm going to go ahead and go back out here, and I'm already in the folder that I want to work with. This is a folder of images I captured back in 2018. You can see here at the top at Luray Caverns. And this is a really cool place. And as I was looking back through my images, I realized I've done nothing with these photos, but there's some neat stuff here. So let's go ahead and use QuickReview to decide which ones are worth keeping and which ones are worth perhaps doing a little bit of extra work on. So I'm going to go up here to the More menu, and that's where you're going to find QuickReview. So right here is QuickReview. I'm going to click on that, and that's going to basically clear out a bunch of distractions so we can focus in on our rating and sorting. Now, when you enable QuickReview, if you are in all photos mode, it's going to show you all photos. If you're in a specific folder, it's going to limit what you're seeing to just that folder. So whatever it is you're looking at on the screen, that's what QuickReview is going to show you. So I just wanted to point that out as we get started. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you'll see it brings us into this great minimalist view that really lets us focus in on the image. And as I mentioned, zooming in and seeing the detail is kind of what's really important for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Z key on my keyboard. That zooms me into 100%. And I can take a look at the actual quality of this image. Now these first two images are very similar. If I go ahead and go back and forth between the two of them, the first one is sharp, the second one is not. I'm going to go ahead and hit the X key on the keyboard for that, and you'll notice it jumps me immediately to the next image. Now I can go back, I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard and go back to that first one. This one's pretty good actually. I think it needs a little bit of straightening, and I could do some things to make it a little bit more colorful and a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to hit that with a P key to go ahead and mark that as a pick. And again, you'll notice it jumped to the next image. So I'm going to hit the arrow key and go to the next photo. And because I have that sticky zoom turned on, you'll see that it stays zoomed in as I go to the next image. If I want to zoom out, just click the Z key again, and it'll zoom me back out. So you can hit Z again, go in, and I can see that I have two images here that are very similar. This first one is not as sharp, so I'm going to hit the X key to reject that. The next one, I'm going to go ahead and hit the P key to pick it. And again, it jumps me right to the next image. So this is a very, very useful thing to go ahead and work through your images. And you can go much faster than I do. You don't have to zoom in and be hypercritical about details like I am. Kind of when you're looking at your images, kind of that first pass is going to be looking for composition anyway. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just use my arrow keys to go forward here. And I have two images here that are very similar. You can see over here on the right, there's a little something. I think a person perhaps was there and they moved out of the frame. And so there's the one with and without. I'm definitely going to reject the one that has that bit of movement there in the corner. And then looking at some of these images, you can see they're very similar, but the composition is slightly different just because I shifted a little bit with the camera. So without even needing to zoom in, I can say, this one I don't like as much. This one I like quite a lot. So, and now we get into the caverns. And again, I've got many images here that are slightly similar, and you can go through and work through those images. So that's quick review in a nutshell, and we can go ahead and work through the rest of these images. But I do want to take a moment to share with you before we get too far into that on doing this on a mobile device as well. But before we do, I want to show you, if you're in this mode, you can either hit escape key on your keyboard to get out of it, or that little X right there, that's going to close that out and take you right back to your main view. So let's go ahead and jump back over to the presentation here for a second and talk about gestures on mobile. So quick review on mobile is very, very useful as well. Now, typically you're working on a smaller screen, so you're going to use that pinch and zoom when you want to see extra detail and really get a better idea if it's a quality photo. Part of that is you want to make sure you absolutely have your optimized images available, but if you're really hypercritical about detail like me, you may want to go ahead and download those originals. So let me show you how to do that really quick. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen on my phone and open up Mylio here on my iPhone. So give me just a second to get this loaded up and shared. 1 second. Almost there. Appreciate your patience. All right, here we go. So now we are in that same folder here on my phone. Now, I right now have mostly just the optimized images on this phone for this set. Because I want to see that detail super, super in depth, having all of the originals can be very useful. So I'm going to temporarily download them so I can work with these images. So I'm going to go click on the actions menu here in the bottom right. Go ahead and click on that. And you see here you have select all. I'm going to go ahead and choose all. And then I'm going to go back to that actions menu. And down here at the bottom, you see download optimized or originals. I would highly suggest going ahead and downloading at least optimized. But like I said, if you're hypercritical on detail, go ahead and download the originals. What this does is it brings these files down to your phone or whatever device you're using temporarily so you have access to those files. It will hold them in the cache, and then when your phone needs that space, it's going to go ahead and free up that space as needed. So it's going to take a moment for these to download. And let me go ahead and see if there's any questions while we're waiting for that to happen here. So it looks like we have, oh, hello from Dusseldorf. Welcome, Stefan. Let's see here. And Lou says, thanks for using the highlighter as you bounce around the screen. It's much easier to follow. I'm glad that's useful. All right. And another question here. Will Mylio write the stars and ratings to the XMP file as the changes and ratings are made using quick review? They absolutely will. So those changes will be made and stored in the industry standard format in your XMP file. So when you go to another application that also uses that same format of stars and flags, that can read those images as well. So like when I open up Adobe Camera Raw, if I've added a star rating, it shows there as well. Same as if I go into Adobe Bridge or any other program that uses those industry standards. So absolutely helpful. And this has taken just a moment here. We're almost done. My phone keeps wanting to go to sleep. So 1 second. Almost there. There we go. Now we have all of our originals here on the phone, which is going to make it that much easier to go ahead and go through this process and be very detail oriented. So I'm going to click done here at the bottom, right down here. And that's going to deselect everything. So I can go ahead now, go up to the more menu in the upper right, which is this little guy up here, the 3 dots. And again, we're going to scroll down and we're going to choose quick review, which is right down here. So there we go. And you can see we're back to where we were. Now I'm going to go ahead and just scroll forward here into the images where we left off. And let's talk a little bit about those gestures. So I can do the pinch and zoom. So you're using your fingers on your screen to go ahead and zoom into that image and see that detail. And you're going to have to do this with each image that you want to get that detail on because sticky zoom is not available on phones. I don't think it works on tablets either. I could be wrong. I need to double check that, but that's something to know. So if you want to see that level of detail, you're just going to have to do that pinch and zoom on your phone. And then you can go to the next image and pinch and zoom on that one too. Now, looking at this, these are both pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom back out, look at both of these versions. And if I want to keep one of them and get rid of the other, I can swipe to the right. So take your finger, swipe right on the screen. That marks it as a pick. And you'll notice if I go back here to the previous image, it now has a pick flag on it. So let's go to the next one. Here we go. And let's say I don't want to keep this one. I want to mark this one as a reject. I'm going to then swipe to the left. And that's going to go ahead and make that a reject. Now, I don't actually want to reject that file, so I'm going to go back, and right here where you see that it has a reject flag, I can just tap that little flag and that removes that flag from it. So if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You can go back and correct it. Very, very simple, and I think that makes a world of difference. Now, if you want to add a star rating, what you can do is use your finger to go up and down on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag my finger up top, and you'll see my stars there across the middle of the screen are going up and down. So I can say this might want to be a 4-star image, and this one maybe a 3. So I can drag my finger up and down to change that star rating. As soon as you let go of it, it jumps to the next image. If you need to go back, just tap on that photo, and then you can go ahead and make any changes you need to make. So using this on a computer, or whether you're using this on a phone or a tablet, it works great both ways. Let me go ahead and stop the sharing here 1 second. And we'll go back to taking a look at this on the computer. It's a little bit easier to see. You guys get a little bit more screen real estate this way. So once you've gone through and you've added these ratings to your photos, now what do you do with the rejected photos? It's really a personal choice. With rejects, you can leave them alone, just have them marked as rejects. Or if that's your marker for something that you want to consider deleting, Mylio makes that very, very easy. You also have the option, if you choose you want to keep them, to have Mylio hide them. So let me show you both of those options, and I'm going to jump here into Mylio. And right now you can see that I have my rejects are grayed out. So they're darker than the ones that are picks or not marked at all. So what I'm going to do is go up here to the Organize menu, and let's see, before I do that, I'm actually going to go up to the More menu, and you'll see here there's a toggle called Show Rejected Photos. I have that on because I want to see if there's rejected photos there. If you want to use this as a mechanism for hiding things, you can turn that off, and Mylio automatically hides them. They're still in your library. They're still being synced to your devices. They're not deleted. They're just hidden. And you can go back at any time and turn that back on to see the images that you've rejected. So you have that option. The next thing you can do is, if you are ready to go ahead and get rid of these images, there's a couple of things you can do. The first one I like to do is just kind of take a look and make sure that they're all actually things I want to get rid of. So I'm going to open up my quick filters, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, show me all of my rejects. And each one of these, I think they're fine to reject. Let's see here. This one I didn't take too close of a look at. I'm really not sure if I want to reject that one just yet. So we can go ahead and open up our ratings area here, and I can just take that flag off of there. So now I have 3 images that I have rejected, and let's say I'm ready to get rid of these. All I need to do is go up here to the Organize menu and choose Delete Rejected Photos. Now this is going to, again, respect whatever view that you're in. If you're in All Photos view and you select Delete Rejected Photos, it's going to delete rejected photos from your entire library. If you're in a separate folder, it's only going to delete the rejected photos that are in that folder. So be cautious about that, because you don't want to take an unnecessary step that you didn't mean to take. I like to be very thoughtful about this and do this folder by folder. I'd be a little bit more scared to do it personally in the All Photos view. So I'm still in my folder, and I can say delete rejected photos. It makes you confirm this is a permanent action. This is a permanent delete. Go ahead and say delete from all devices. I know those images are gone. I've freed up a little bit of disk space, and my library is a little bit better organized than it was before. I can now clear out that filter, and I have a better view here of what I want to work with. So I hope that was helpful. Let me go ahead and take a look and see if we have any other questions here. And Harold says, what happens to photos marked with reject versus picked? What other editing programs recognize those flags? Excellent question. So it really depends on the other programs. I think On1 might recognize them. I know that Adobe Bridge and Adobe Camera Raw do. Lightroom will recognize star ratings, but Lightroom is weird. So Adobe, one big company, they have two different standards that they use for their flags. Both Adobe Bridge and Adobe Camera Raw use the industry standard format, which is the same that Mylio uses. Lightroom does something different. Lightroom's flags are unique. So every application's a little bit different, but as long as they use the industry standard, they can read what Mylio did. And if you do it in another program, Mylio can read what they did. So I know for sure that Bridge and Adobe Camera Raw do. I think On1 does. I haven't tested too many others. I know if you're a Luminar user, any of the favorites or stars you add in their application are proprietary to their catalog. They don't write them to metadata. So it really depends on each individual software maker. And John says, can you assign color labels on an iPad? You absolutely can. So QuickReview does not have color labels as part of that system, but you always have access to that. So anytime that I'm in the regular Mylio view, you have your color labels, and on an iPad, it's going to look very much like this. So I could select this image, add a red color label. You can see the little tag up there noting that that's red, and it's going to work exactly the same on an iPad. With that, I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. I hope you do something fun. Enjoy the sunshine if you have sunshine where you are. If you are in Florida or the surrounding states and you're dealing with severe weather right now, please stay safe. And hopefully you guys get through everything, with minimal stuff happening. So have a great weekend, and we will see you next time, everyone. Bye-bye.